Vedic ghosts, like, subscribe, and share. No intros today, guys. We're gonna suffocate these tracks. Uh, this is uh, this is Vedic ghosts, and this is going to be about modern women, and this one's going to be about tactics, basically. Because what I've noticed, and what a lot of us actually noticed, is women have changed, but their tactics haven't. If you haven't really noticed it, then you've probably been paying attention, and your head was probably buried in the sand somewhere, or you know, up some woman's butt somewhere, basically, or trying to shove your head up somebody, trying to shove your head up so far up a woman, basically, trying to get her attention and affection. You probably missed the fact that they still use the same tactics. Which brings me to my next point. A lot what we talk about in the manosphere is how feminism and all this stuff is taking over. Unless you're in a Spanish manosphere, then you're talking about traditionalism and stuff like that. But typically in an English speaking manosphere, we talk about feminism and how feminism is taking over the world and stuff along the lines of that. The problem with a lot of this stuff going on in this day and age is, like, everything has changed, but men are supposed to stay the same, but the tactics of women never changed. And people were actually shocked by this. I found it mind blowing how many people were actually shocked that their tactics didn't change. It's like it's the same old tactics because that's all they know. Most of the things that they do and say when it comes to the feminist groups and all these other extra groups with Me Too and all this stuff is basically nothing more than regurgitated information and news, basically. So basically, it's just nothing more than women repeating and copying and pasting the same things that they've actually witnessed, seen throughout the many years. They're not coming up with anything brand new because there's nothing to come up with brand new because they can't come up with anything brand new for tactics. The sad part about that is their tactics will always remain stagnant. They'll always do the shaming. They'll always do the intimidation. They'll always do the crying. They'll always do if they can't get their way, or if it gets really really bad, they'll get the brother government involved and stuff along the lines of that. Um. So, oh, and they also use seduction and their feminine wiles to get what they want. They'll also lie to a man basically to keep him around so they can still get benefit from that man too as well. So it's one of those things where you have to understand that the tactics will never change. They'll always remain the same because they have no new tactics because they can't come up with any tactics. Until somebody come up with some brand new tactics, they basically won't have any. I believe the worst one, the only tactic that they came up with was I was talking to Win about it. Apparently in India, there's a village of women who kidnap men so they can force them to marry them, basically, which is pretty interesting. That's a new tactic on the horizon right there. But I highly doubt women are that motivated to get a man, basically, and they would have to seriously be kidnapping some serious men, basically, to pull that off. And it would probably need like an entourage of beta boy simps to actually pull it off as well too, because typically that's what those Indian women need. They need beta boy simps basically to get to basically get them to actually be able to kidnap the men that they want for all intents and purposes. What's up, No Name? What's up, Win? What's up, Baron Yam? But what I've noticed with a lot of these women is that they nowadays there's a lot of men who aren't really falling for the shaming, the seduction, the intimidation. They don't give a damn about the law, so they don't care if they get the cops law called on them, and things like that. So women are hitting their head off the wall, and they're basically calling them gay, or they're calling them other things, basically to shame them, or you know, to try to emasculate them so they can actually capitulate to what they want. And the sad part about that is men. There's a lot of men who aren't. So women get drastic, or they're trying to go drastic, or this is why they're using all the stuff, the talking points like where have all the good men gone, or where are the economically attractive men, stuff like that. Because the sad part about that, at the end of the day, just because she's changed, that don't mean her tactics and motives are going to change. Her motives will never change. Just because she makes more money, that don't mean she's fin to be the breadwinner. It just doesn't work like that. Now there are some that are few and far between where they are the breadwinner and they want to splurge on their man and stuff like that. but that's very rare. That is very rare. And the sad part about that, a large chunk of those ones typically get divorced or end up breaking up because the woman feels as though she's better than the man. So what's the point of sticking around and sticking by this man at the end of the day? So what ends up happening is a lot of women are going for, shaming tactics or trying to intimidate men, or they're trying to get beta simps to basically do their bidding for them so they can get these men to do what they want them to do, or get men to capitulate. Good example of that is the trolls, the MGTOW trolls. Now, the MGTOW trolls will fuck with MGTOW on a regular basis. Yeah, it happens. However, when shit gets too thick and foggy, they'll deploy they'll deploy their troll sims basically to go deal with us basically in the red pill in a MGTOW community. They'll pretty much deploy their troll community to base their whole entire troll sim community to basically go and deal with a lot of the stuff. So what ends up happening? What's up, Yamabito? So what ends up happening is, all these sims, all these troll sims basically go out and they basically do the bidding on the channels and in the comment sections, and they harass various people for the because they sim so hard for these women on the internet, and they have like just an army of sims basically to do it. And the sad part about that is, no matter what you do, there will never be a shortage of sims. There would never be a shortage of sims. There will always be a shortage of red pill men, MGTOW men, and IPMOR and SYSBM and other groups like that. But there would never be a shortage of sims. As long as there's a simp breathing, there will never be a shortage of sims. As long as there's an OnlyFans, there will never be a shortage of sims. As long as there is Twitch thoughts, there will never be a shortage of sims, basically. So no matter how much you preach or teach, there will never be a shortage of sims. The red pill, the manosphere will always be outnumbered, in other words, no matter if you like it or not. So the only thing you can possibly do as far as manosphere is concerned is either move out the way and watch it go to hell, or rack up a body count if that's the game you like, basically. So those are your only two options basically in this day and age. Just get out the damn way and let everything go to hell and watch it and laugh and bring the popcorn and beer, or enjoy all the hoeing and Sodom and Gomorrah going on around you, basically. If you're like I said, if you're into that type of game, it's sad, but it's true. And nothing's more crazier, and nothing's much more savage than a simp that's simping out for a woman, basically. Like, stuff can always go south, and the sad part about a lot of these simps and a lot of these troll army simps, basically, for these internet trolls that always troll the manosphere, is you're sitting there messing with somebody and you don't realize who the simp is that's actually following the person. I mean, it's fine and good. You pick on the person, but you don't know if that simp is a computer programmer. You don't know if that simp is a freaking, cop, or, works for the FBI or CIA, because there's a lot of simps within those organizations, sadly. You don't know if the simp has, is very savvy with the internet. So now you're fucking with basically a troll, a female troll, who has an army of simps who have Lord knows what at their disposal, basically. So this is why I originally coined the phrase "don't feed the trolls" or forget about the trolls or ignore the trolls, basically, because what ends up happening is now you're messing with this troll. Now you're messing with this person trolling the manosphere, and all of a sudden, now all your information is out there online. If that's not what you want, basically. So now you got to worry about that type of stuff. And the sad part about that is, when it comes down to it, you typically run into a lot more problems. And you run into a lot more things when you actually start messing with trolls, for all intents and purposes. Because the sad part about that, despite the fact that you don't show your face and you take all the precautions, there's always that person that's smarter than you, quicker than you, and a lot faster than you that can get to you. Because the sad part about that, in the famous words of Wen, as he always says, I know that I can be touched. at any given point for all intents and purposes. And that's true, and that goes for anybody. It don't matter if you think you got the best IP addresses or anything like that. It doesn't matter. Those IP addresses mean nothing. Those, those because me and Double I have actually talked about the whole entire, because everybody's running around talking about I got this encryption and I got these VPNs. They don't mean anything to anybody for all intents and purposes. Hell, my 6-year-old, well, he's 7 now. My 7-year-old can actually bypass a VPN if he really wanted to. That's how easy VPNs are. VPNs are only good. Because me and Double I talked about this on an actual forum. VPNs are only good if you want to be able to watch content that you can't watch in your own country. That's the only thing VPNs are ever good for. The sad part about that, VPNs are less secure than McAfee or Norton. I'm just keeping it 100. It is what it is. And what's up, No Name? What's up, King of Lions? And this is what people fail to realize when it comes to stuff like this. You can't sit up here and rely on this stuff, because the sad part about that is all this stuff is man-made. And when something's man-made, there's always something that's overlooked within that program or with that security patch, basically. There's always something that's overlooked. And when something's overlooked, there's always a back door, or there's always an entry into your life and all your information, sadly. So when it comes down to it, the more you pick with trolls, the more their army gets enraged. The more their army gets enraged, the more likely you're going to be doxxed, which is another tactic that a lot of women use nowadays, sadly. They basically use social media to get out the word to dox a person, basically. Now it don't matter who you are, what you are, who you are, when you are. The sad part about that is what people fail to realize is your voice is very distinct. No matter if you like it or not, your voice is very distinct. So somebody's going to recognize you if you don't show your face in public. Somebody's going to hear your voice, no matter how much you try to alter it or try to cut it or try to use voice changing software. Somebody's always going to know it's you. The sad part about that is the tactics that you're using is so outdated. You don't even realize how outdated it is. Like a lot of people think that they're up on everything and they'll be okay. And the sad part about that is they're not. They're really not. They're getting themselves into deeper shit than they realize, but they think that they're preventing stuff from happening, or they think that they're secure in their own little ivory tower, when in fact the ivory tower doesn't actually exist. You believe that the ivory tower exists for you, but it actually doesn't exist. There's nothing more than glass walls around you at the end of the day, especially when it comes to this internet stuff. There's nothing more than glass walls around you. But the interesting notion to all this stuff is that's one of the many tactics that women are using today. But the sad part about that is it's not even a new tactic. Women have been doing this tactic for many, many years. If you go back to like the days when there was the village, they typically the word was spread around the village as basically the precursor to social media. So now the whole entire village knows about it, and now either you have to up and leave the village or you have to deal with the problems and hope that everything shakes out for the best for you, sadly. That's pretty much all it really is. So the shaming's been going on for a while, and the social media / town crier stuff has been going on for a very, very long time too. So this is nothing new either. It's basically new technology that actually spread it far and wide. A good example of that is way, way back when, in about the early 2000s, early mid 2000s, there was a site called don'tdateemgirl.com. I shit you not. And on this site was a bunch of bitter, angry women who would say some of the most off the wall stuff about men. And the sad part about that is the only reason why the site was shut down is because there was a lot of information on there given away that was about the men, and there was a lot of information that was false about the men on those websites, sadly. So there was a lot of false information on those websites. Like one woman, I don't know if she went to jail or whatever happened, but she literally said on this site, "Don't date him, girl," because she was mad because apparently he just banged her and just not talked to never talked to her again. So basically, she put out there that he had AIDS and put his whole entire name out there and stuff like that, and said he had AIDS and don't date him girl.com. So there was that false information. Then there was a chick that literally said, and I quote, "Don't date him, girl. He likes to choke slam bitches." Literally said that. So what ended up happening, how the story actually went, is basically if you get out of pocket to him, he'll choke slam you off of whatever you're on to the ground, basically. Now, this ended up coming back to be false. So, it ends up being the sad part about that. That dude ended up actually getting more dates because, a lot of women like unruly men, basically, or gangster men like that, basically. So he ended up actually getting more women, basically, on that site, sadly. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of stuff like, they were lying, say the man got herpes, or they would say the man got hepatitis, or they would say that, he's he's married and he's banging all these women and stuff like that, and always passing around sexually transmitted diseases and stuff along the lines of that. And the sad part about that is these are all bitter, scorned women. These are all bitter, scorned women. It's basically a site so women can vent about men. And it got taken down because about 99 or 98% of the information on there was inflammatory, false, and what's the name of the word? Defamation of character, basically. So the site got sued for millions, billions, and a lot of these women had to go to court for litigation over defaming somebody's name for all intents and purposes. I mean, I find it rather funny how they say listen to women, but you got women on the internet doing this shit in droves, just making up shit and putting it there. And they say, well, women don't do that. And yes, they do. They make up any reason. Women will make up any reason to break up with a man for any given reason, sadly. It can be anything. Hell, I've met women who literally will pick a fight on purpose just so they can break up with a person. Or they'll basically argue with you just so they can pick a fight with you, just so they can say, we're not talking anymore. And the sad part about that's how easy it is to that's how easy is it for a woman to actually just, change her mind like the wind, or, lie on you, basically. A woman will pick a fight with you about something that's not even you, or that's not even true. You'll end up in an argument with her, and now you're breaking up with her for Lord knows what reason, and you're sitting there like, I don't even understand what just happened. And that's basically that's another tactic that they actually use, where they'll basically bring up some craziness that is probably not even you, or that they're accusing you of, and then you'll get into a whole entire argument about it, and that's what they want, just so they can have a reason to break up with you. The sad part about that is it goes both ways. The sad part about that is it goes both ways when it comes to the shaming. It goes both ways when it comes to argument. Because at the end of the day, there's men who won't argue, and then women will be like, well, obviously you don't love me, so we're breaking up now. So it's like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, sadly. And that's pretty much how it works. They want you in a precarious position so they can actually manipulate and alter stuff, so they can actually make it so that you fit nice and neat into a box so they can put you there. Another good example of tactics that they use is they'll friend men and leave them in a friend zone, basically, but they'll tell you that the friend zone doesn't exist. But the irony to that, on the flip side to that, is a lot of times men actually put themselves in a friend zones by the way they actually approach. Sadly, it's true, but it's sad. Which is pretty interesting. But the friend zone does exist. But an interesting concept is basically the takeaway from this video is, even though feminism is here to stay for a while, the tactics never change. The tactics will always be the same. They're a bit more drastic, but they're the same old tactics that they're using, basically, from the dawn of time, sadly. So it's one of those things, like I was saying, either you avoid the whole entire thing, you get out the way and let the shit go to hell in a handbasket or burn, or you try to rack up your body count as much as humanly possible. That's basically your only choices in this day and age. Rack up your body count or let it go to hell in a handbasket. So that's typically what I say, or get up and move to another country, basically, and do you is your other best bet. But yeah, the tactics will never change, man. They will never change because women don't know how to come up with their own things. All the things that they come up with, all the every single. I want you to think about every single talking point that a woman has ever uttered out of her mouth. It's literally something that's literally cut and pasted from something that happened in history, or something that was said not too long ago, or something that was said in a book. It's basically cut and pasted and reused, recycled and reused is all it really is, sadly. That's the only thing that they know how to do. And changing tactics would be too much of a would take too much intellect and too much mental gymnastics for them to do to actually change tactics, sadly. So they have to stick to the same old tactics of shaming and seduction and friend zoning and using usury and you know feminine wiles and things along the lines of that, to basically and the shaming and internet and simps, basically, to get what they want, because there's nothing else they can do. And the government and the cops and things along the lines of that to get what they want, because the sad part about that is that's all they got. That's all they got. That's all they will ever have, and that's all they got. But this is Vedic Ghosts. Y'all be blessed and stay tuned for part 2 to modern day women, coming up in about less than 10 minutes. All right. Have a good one. Bye.